The state will not back down on the war against terror despite the nasty events of Somalia. Interior Cabinet Secretary Major Retired General Joseph Nkaiserry has reaffirmed the government's commitment to defeat the enemy, saying the attacked camp will be bolstered. And as KTN's Francis Ontomo now reports, the state is warning those circulating graphic images of the slain soldiers that stern action will be taken against them.
The horror that met Kenyan soldiers in Somalia has received condemnation from all quarters. But even despite the blow, security organs have however insisted that there was no relenting in the fight against terror. Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiserry has paid tribute to the fallen soldiers, but insisted that the setback will not dampen their resolve.
I want to thank Kenyans who have rallied behind our troops, who have shown that patriotism can make us win this war on the enemy. Kenyans, thank you for standing up for KDF and other security forces. I wish to inform Kenyans that the war against terrorism, radicalization, violent extremism is continuing as planned.
Nkaissery is however angered by those he says are amplifying the terrorist agenda through sharing and circulating images of the slain soldiers. The head of internal security is now promising serious action against those perpetuating the vice.
We have, and I repeat, we have over and over again questioned that sharing of graphic images of the dead embolden the enemy and bring griefs to those who have lost their loved ones. This will not be tolerated. We are reviewing circulation of the same photographs, and we shall ensure action is taken according to the law.
And although questions have been raised severally on the synchrony and coordination of the AMISOM troops in Somalia, the El Ade military base in Somalia where the soldiers were attacked will be beefed up even more by the Kenyan troops.
You don't run away from the enemy. You reinforce. So I'm sure there must have been reinforcement both from AMISOM and from KDF.
Friday evening, President Uhuru Kenyatta expressed confidence that Kenya will finally have the last say in the war against the enemy.
Hawa watu hawatatutisha. Sisi tuko tayari kusimama imara kulinda nchi yetu. Sisi tuko tayari kuhakikisha ya kwamba tutaendelea na shughuli yetu ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba tumeleta amani katika nchi zetu jirani. Na kazi hiyo tutaiendelea, na tunaendelea kushukuru maafisa wetu ambao wanatekeleza kazi hiyo kwa niaba yetu sisi zote.
Francis Ontomo, KTN News, Mombasa.
Right, and we want to talk about the new developments that have occurred in regard to that unfortunate attack. We're now joined by Delano Kilu Longwe, who is a security expert. Thank you so much for joining us on KTN Weekend Prime. I think the question on many people's mind is if we'll ever know the number of soldiers who perished in that attack.
Obviously, Betty, this is a sensitive question, but the answer is yes, we will get to know the number of exact troops that did perish. We'll also get to know the number of wounded, only we will not get this from unreliable sources. So, for example, in the area of the casualties and the fatalities, we cannot get that information as a country from the enemy. It's important that that is verified by KDF or by AMISOM in terms of number of troops lost. But
okay, and why is it taking so long? Because it's almost 48 hours and still no indication about that unknown number.
First of all, this battle occurred on a bit of a wide territory.
Right.
So we have to get to the bottom of the facts at the end of the day. KDF is responsible and AMISOM is responsible to go dig in, verify information, actually do a proper body count, understand how many people are injured, how many are severely injured, save the lives of those who can be saved in terms of any injuries, massive injuries. And first of all, the other thing we need to remember, Betty, at the end of the day, there is a God in heaven. And we do condole the families and the friends of those who have been lost in this very ugly incident that occurred. But the facts will come out. It's early days. You know, in any incident like this, there's never a rush. We are aware that this is not the first time that this type of tactic has been deployed. Last year in June, in a place called Lego, which is about 50 kilometers northwest of Mogadishu, the same occurred, and we lost about 50 Burundian troops from AMISOM. Again in September, this is south, 80 kilometers south of Mogadishu. About a similar amount of Ugandan troops were killed in a very similar type of attack.
Right.
So the information will come out eventually.
One of the other things that is coming out is the question, and critics are asking, is it time that the AMISOM maybe change tact on how they handle these militants? Because from the attack, it seemed like it was properly planned and executed. Do you think it's time for AMISOM to change the strategy after so many years of being in Somalia?
Betty, I think we have to be very open and honest. On this incident, there's been a very massive failure. This similar incident, as I've just mentioned, happened in June in Lego. Secondary incident happened in September against the Ugandan troops, which was very similar. They blew up 2 bridges, and then they drove up a vehicle to the gate and blew that. So it's very, very similar. There's been a failure here in terms of how this has been handled. Yes, we do see a scale up in terms of the types of attacks and the complexity of the attacks. But here, primarily, there has also been a failure in terms of military intel, as well as there could also be culpability in terms of the people in the surrounding areas. You cannot say that a large town like this, all the herds boys who take their herds out to graze, etc., did not notice 200 armed troops coming up towards this particular base. Somebody knew, and there's been a failure here in terms of military intelligence. However, that is not the focus for now. The focus for now needs to be a swift retaliatory attack. The difference between this and the other attacks is here we're talking about approaching Kenya's border very closely. These guys have come, they're knocking on our door. What is our response going to be? We come from a nation that has very strong tribes that have grown up. We have many people who have grown up in terms of dominance and being able to fight. Well, this is a war, Betty.
Right.
It is an actual war. And the only way that we're going to come out of this is if we take this battle to where it belongs.
You've mentioned precisely, sorry for cutting you short, that the enemy is already knocking at our door. Do you think it's time that we exit Somalia? It's a question that has been asked so many times, but after this dreadful and unfortunate attack, do you think it's time?
Well, Betty, in this case, it's the same question could be paraphrased. Would you want to have your security guard sitting with you in your sitting room, or sitting at the gate, at the perimeter gate of your compound to protect you? So if we bring our troops back in here, there's a war out there. We allow these guys to mechanize, we allow these guys to build more complex attacks, and from the trend that we can see right now, it appears that they are planning and actually practicing what they want to do in and within our borders. So we have to stop it, we have to nip it in the bud, and we need to then mobilize, invest more, much more. For example, we're investing over 40 billion shillings in the coming general elections. That should be the annual spend to mechanize, automate, and bring technology to bear in terms of this type of war. If we had the technology, which does exist today, infrared, these would have been detected from way off. We should have waypoints. We should have had a clear perimeter around this particular base. It actually means that the culpability needs to be brought to the table. We need to understand why AMISOM is not doing enough to ensure the safety of troops that are actually on the ground. We do have the technology. It exists in other spheres.
Right. Thank you so much, Lily, for talking to us on KTN Weekend Prime.